What it do, Modified 95 family? We're back at home base at the Honda Library. And we're back on the B18a1 because we're still working with a zero budget at the moment. And my housemate had this idea. He was gonna make me a valve compressor for the valve springs so I could take off the keepers and the retainer so I could remove the valve springs, but more importantly the valves, so I could check those out, make sure they're not bent. Even though that's not what I think was wrong with this motor that put it out of commission and allowed it to be sold to me for so cheap. But I need to get them out. I need to get them cleaned. I did a really good job of cleaning the combustion chambers in another video. And so in this video, I'm going to try to get these valves out. So I had to do a little customization on the tool that he had made, because usually the really expensive one allows you to hit 4 of them at a time. So you only have to move it once on each side. There's like 2 spots you hold it, you get all 8 of them out. Yeah, there's 8 of them. But this one only hits 2 at a time. And so I think I will be able to get out most, I think 6 on each side with the current setup. So let me show you what we got. So just give me 5 on my black hand side and let's go. All right, this is the tool. It looks a lot like the B-Series VTEC one. It's a very similar design. So it mounts in like the little cam caps do. This one, the bolt's a little bit longer, and I found a couple spacers because I didn't want to have to stack a bunch of washers. That just seems impractical and a hassle and would piss me off more than not. And then these are 10mm bolts, and these are welded in place. So you can see how these two are in view, and these ones on the very outside, we'll have to figure something out for those to get them back in and out. But I got it all together. I noticed that it was hitting in here, so I took my Dremel and I cut into that to make a modification on the tool my housemate had designed. And just like we say, like built, not bought. No, I mean, we're building everything. Because a lot of things has to be bought because you don't have like manufacturing equipment just to make one piece. But we can make this. This was scrap metal. These were washers or spacers that we had in our boxes and bins and tool bags. So I searched it all over, and then I put some spacers in here. And so as this gets compressed, it pushes down on that retainer with equal force with both these little arms, and it should allow the keepers to come out. So I've pushed this one down, and I'm pretty sure these keepers are ready to come out. I just gotta find a magnet so I can grab them. This head's obviously off. It's sitting on the counter, so if it falls down, I can literally turn the whole head in and dump it like a guitar pick going into your sound hole in your guitar. I can just shake it till that retainer comes out. And I'll get a plastic bag. I will not lose any of these because they should be good for reusing, because we're not doing any performance upgrades to this. We're just cleaning it, making sure it's still good, probably reseat the valves after they get cleaned, and then putting it back together. So here we go. Everything came out as planned. We can see how gummed up these are. So I'm gonna give them a quick wipe, and then I will put them into my, I'm trying to see what side this is. This is, I think, the exhaust side. On the VTEC ones, there's a clear difference in size, but I won't know until I take the intake ones off if they're both the same or if the intake side's bigger. But I'll get these cleaned off, and then it will go into my acid dish where I'm going to put some muriatic or hydrochloric acid. Apparently the same thing. I don't know why they're labeled as different, but yeah, so it's going to go in here and it'll sit safely, and it will not sit by anything else, because this is what happens when acids buy things. So this was down below where the acid was not close, so that rusted. And then everything up here rusted, my drill bits. So you can just see what happens to things that were near it. This is, I think, aluminum, and it was sitting next to it. And I was trying to deactivate the acid with baking soda, and I was doing it right here. And it was just foaming over. It rusted over some of my mounts I just cleaned up. It rusted some of those bolts. All this stuff can be cleaned up. It's just more of an annoyance. But be very careful with acid. It works phenomenally at getting off rust, but that is what happens. So I'm going to try to do that same thing with all of these. These valve, I want to say valve guide seals. There, we're trying to get some light in there. These all come out because I'm sure that they need some love, because this has been hot tanked. This motor has gone through, I don't know how much abuse before I even had it. So it'll get new ones. Those are cheap. And I should have another load of recycling going in, so hopefully I have some money to get things going. I'm trying to get up to the magic number of $500, because that's how much it's going to take to fix the inside of these cylinders. These have been honed, and they're still very rough. You don't need your fingernail. As soon as you touch it, it seems rough. And so if you can feel it, you know, it's going to need some love. So this is going to go to the machine shop as soon as I have enough recycling money to put into this, because that's how this budget goes. We're making it, we're recycling for it, we're making stuff happen. So I'm happy that this concept works, but it only worked on one side. My housemate just did this out of his mental state. He just kind of just envisioned it, eyeballed it, and cut it. So I don't know if you can tell that the line that this travels in is slightly angled. And so when I go to move to the other side, which is over here, to push out that second valve, what ends up happening is these pieces do not lay flush on the valve. So I don't want to start pushing it at a weird angle. I don't want to tweak anything. So what I did is I got out my Dremel. I got my Dremel and I started cutting with a little cutting disc. And usually those cheapo ones I got from eBay do not work, but I have a name brand Dremel reinforced cutting disc. This is my last one. I used the other one to clean up these sides to make it narrow enough. And then so I have one more, and hopefully I can cut the rest of the way through this, and that way it's a straight line all the way across. So wish me luck. I'm not going to show that. I've already burned myself several times. I need safety goggles. I need to stop work. I'm going to get a cool eye patch if I don't get safety goggles, and it'll look cool, but very ineffective for building and driving. All right, party people. So I made that adjustment to this, and then when I put this on, I just cinch it down with this ratcheting wrench, just kind of carefully. Because I want it snug, you know, because I don't want those threads to rip out. And I don't use the impact on this like I use in everything else, because I have a habit of being a little heavy-handed. Right, so, I got that. And so I'm going to take this, and let's see if we can get a real time. This is in real speed of this thing working. So I'm just gonna put the tin on here. I have it threaded in there. I'm gonna carefully start pushing that down. See, is it gonna work? It looks like it's all seated the way I need it to. Perfect. And I feel like we're gonna have to do I've been doing a real good job cleaning up this, but I think that we're gonna have to do a really good job. Where's my magnet? Okay, see, it's going here. I think we're gonna have to do a really good job. There's one. Put it in the bag. Let's get number two. Clean all the metal shavings out of here. Oh yeah. Perfect, people. All right, perfect. So that worked the way I want it to. And so I should be able to get all the center ones out. And my housemate was saying, based on this tool I saw at the machine shop that the guy invented, it's like a T-handle that just presses down, that I should be able just to kind of pop these out with some sort of like socket and drive it down with a little piece of like rubber, or I've seen people like put towels, like little small piece of towel in there, and pop those ones out. So these ones will come out easy with this custom made tool, and the rest I'm gonna try to punch out. And then I hear this is some kind of monster getting those out. So we'll see what we can do. That seemed to work well. I put my tool, my powdered peanut butter bucket, where I have some valve cover or timing belt bolts, plus the other pullers. Just important things I don't want to lose. They're just getting put in here. All the valves that I was able to get out, all the valve springs are in here, the retainers and the keepers are in there. I dropped the keeper, and I was down on my hands and knees, and I found that single keeper, and I held it up with a smile, and I don't think anyone could imagine what that looks like. Probably only my buddy Anthony out in Vegas, because he's probably seen the picture from the same publication I'm talking about. But I have all of them except for 4, and yes, the intake ones are definitely bigger than the exhaust. So yeah, that holds true with all the motors I've taken apart, being a B series VTEC and a B series non-VTEC that I'm working on right now. The exhaust sides were very greasy, but a little tap, usually with my hand or with the rubber end of a screwdriver, just got them started to slide out. The intake side was just so dry, and there doesn't seem to be any damage on these. I need to check them more officially to see if they're bent, but this one was super rusty. But yeah, they were just super dry, you know, whereas these ones were all kind of muddy and greasy looking. So was that tool a good idea? Heck yeah, it was a good idea, because it really costs nothing but scrap and just a little bit of time, which time is infinite and just a construct, but here we go. And I would have loved to have the $70 tool. I would have liked to have the $50 tool that 4 Wheel Time showed me. And I'm going to do some more MacGyver stuff to get these ones off by hand. If anyone has any suggestions for getting these bad dogs off, let me know. And with that tool, I think that it was somewhat getting cross-threaded, so there was some metal shavings for that, but I do want to paint this, and I have hot tanked it, I think once before. I think I did this one once and the block twice. And what I plan on doing is once I get everything out of this, I'm probably going to hot tank it again. Just at home. I made a little at-home hot tank. I made a video. If you haven't seen it, it's pretty boring, but it's cool, the results. And so I'm going to probably do that again. All right, so I'll see you guys next time. Still on a zero budget. Still have about $53 or $57 from my last recycling thing that I'm holding in stasis. Till we get enough to fix the block first, because everything on this kind of hinges on the block. If this head was messed up, it wouldn't matter, because I could come over here and be like, let's put a GSR head on. Let's put a B16 head on it. B16 head to H22, so that one can't go on there. But almost everything else could go in here, and we could do LS VTEC. But if the block is messed up, we're kind of dead in the water. I would still fix his head up and put it on the head shelf. But I'd like this whole thing to go back together, and we will have total costs. You're seeing it in real time, what I'm doing, what it costs. It's been a few months since I cracked this bad boy open, but I've had it for probably about 5 years. That's probably why I was so gross on the inside, because I didn't clean it up as soon as I got it. And I'm sure it would have been substantially less bad than it is now. But we're continuing, we're making stuff happen, and hopefully we'll maybe come up on a project where we can put this motor in and make sure all the work we did was valid and see this bad boy running. Or maybe someone hits me up like, hey, saw the work you did, want to buy the motor. I'll think about it. Would probably happen. And then I'd see if I'm worth my weight in salt here. All right, Modified family, until I see you next time, peace. All right, we're back real quick. So I'm trying to find out a way to get these outside ones off. So I picked up this 19mm power torque socket. This is my tools. My housemate has Snap-on, and I have power torque because I'm just balling on a budget, like I said. And I walked up to this valve, just put my hand on top of it, and just gave it one quick pump. And this bad boy came right off. And so also with the springs, I forgot to mention that I'm going to clean these up. I'm probably going to soak them in like WD-40 or something, then just give them a real good wipe down. And after the head's clean and ready to go back together, it'd be all good. But yeah, some of them are kind of rusty like that. All right, now I'm out.